you?
Hello everyone, it's Sid at Cool Moviegram. Hope you're well, hope you're safe. Today is a review of Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. So, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, sorry. Film is, of course, the first in the Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And, this is my take on it now. The film, of course, opens up where the character Shang-Chi is having a flashback, a dream of his mom telling a young Shang-Chi about the exploits of his father, who was a powerful warlord, Wenwu, played by Tony Leung, who had conquered the many armies, dynasties, amassed great amounts of power using the Ten Rings, which is like a mythical kind of weapon, which actually gives him immense power. But of course, he's someone who's been corrupted by this power. And he wants to actually conquer this village called Ta Lo, which is where people have actually mythical powers, and this is kept in secret from more or less the rest of the world. But of course, he meets Ying Li, played by Father Chen, who of course first is very hesitant of letting Wu into the actual village, but eventually they both form a bond. They both fall in love. They decide to give up their powers in the martial world and live a regular life with a family. But of course, he wakes up. We see that the main character Shang-Chi, known as Sean by his friends, is living a very ordinary life. He works as a parking valet at a hotel with his best friend Katie, played by Awkwafina. And life, you just like kind of gives like a slice of life for the everyday Asian American. And eventually people are trying to kill Sean, and you find out that his name is Shang-Chi, and the people who were sent to kill him were members of the Ten Rings, an army controlled by his father. And this leads them to Macau, where Shang's estranged sister, Xiaoling, played by Zhang Meng'e, who's running an underground fight club. Eventually, when both children are caught up by their father, they find out that Wenwu has an aspiration where Shang-Chi is actually given the Ten Rings, and also wants him to control the army and take his father's place. But of course, Shang-Chi, being kind of like spending a lot of his life now in the West, living a normal life, does not have any kind of aspiration or hopes to actually conquer the world in the way that his father is. And so eventually that kind of creates a rift between the children and their father. But at the same time, you see the dynamics of how the family had actually, a tragedy had actually broken the family, and how the brother and sister dynamic, it's not the same as it was, because it's just filled with a lot of kind of like unevenness in their relationship. And of course, this is also affected by the treatment that they received as children from their father. Now, overall, I thought the plot was quite interesting. What I liked about it was that the protagonist this time around, for a Marvel superhero origin story, we got a character that is not quippy and referential. He's not like overly geeky or overly confident in his ability that he must be brought down a notch or put through like some sort of a personal tragedy to kind of bring him back down to earth. I mean, this time round, Shang-Chi similarly plays him in the most human way possible. He's a very average kind of person, the kind of person that you could actually meet on the streets, the person that you might know in real life. He's just very simple, very average as a person. He knows his ability, but he just doesn't really let people know who he is. He's just living a very kind of like ordinary life in comparison to what his parents were. And which is quite nice. I mean, he's grounded by his his best friend Katie, who's played by Aquafina, very funny at times, and also she's kind of plays this very kind of realistic person who, as a friend, she's very good because she's actually sticking by his side and also kind of keeps him grounded in that sense. And she also supports him, giving that moral support that, he has to believe in himself. He has that kind of support going for him. And yeah, I thought Michelle Yeoh, she appears later on in the movie as Ying Nan, playing the auntie of Xiaoling and Shang-Chi, who lives in the village Ta Lo. And yeah, she kind of brings a very kind of like soft, gentle side to it, where you kind of see how both of their parents were a lot different. I mean, Shang-Chi and Xiaoling's parents were both kind of like polar opposites at one point. And how both of their natures play into the actual personalities of these two characters. And yeah, overall, and also I thought Tony Leung was amazing. I mean, again, he's very kind of like emotive with his eyes. I mean, instead of playing like the archetype kind of like Asian bad guy as Fu Manchu was, who's the original father of Shang-Chi in the Marvel comics, as this very kind of stereotypical one-note character, he brings more depth and humanity. And the reasons for his actions are kind of like pretty much explained. And he kind of, he creates a very three-dimensional character. And, there are nods to his characters like in The Mood for Love. And also, there's a lot of nods to other, popular Chinese martial arts movies in comparison, especially when it comes to the fight sequences being Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or films like Hero. And even one of the standout fight sequences, which was in at the beginning of the movie, which was on the bus. I mean, some of the actual sequence did remind me of either the train fight sequence from God of Gamblers, and of course Police Story, where Jackie Chan is actually hanging off a bus with an umbrella and kind of using the windows to kind of climb around the bus. This was also kind of done with the help of CGI in Shang-Chi. But definitely that was a great sequence. Of course, the fight sequence, being that they had a kind of a Jackie Chan influence, considering Andy Cheng, the film's martial arts choreographer and stunt coordinator, was a member of the Jackie Chan stunt team. And also the late Brad Allen, who's the second unit director, was also one of the very few non-Asian film members of the Jackie Chan stunt team as well. And you can kind of see the impact that it had actually on the fight sequences and the actions. It's just like, it was just done really well. And even the takes were really good. There were really long takes in a lot of the fight sequences where you can actually see the martial arts choreography clear, which is very, very rare for a lot of American produced martial arts movies, especially when it came to movies starring Jet Li. I mean, they were like completely all over the place. A lot of shaky MTV type of editing with shaky handheld camera work. None of that over here. This was actually, they kind of pulled the camera back, or you can actually clearly see it. The way that they were edited, you can actually figure out what the movements were. And I thought it was really good. And of course, Andy Lee of Martial Club did a great job in his brief appearance as the Death Dealer, who's like kind of like the main henchman of Wenwu. And kind of like the second in command when it comes to the Ten Rings Army. Yeah, and some of his movements, especially the fight scene in Macau, was very visceral, colourful. But then some of the moves that he's did, the kicks that he came up with, it's just like, wow! I was like, this is awesome. That kind of literally blew me away as well. Yeah, the CGI, again, is captured really well. It kind of captures the beauty of like this like Chinese mythology with a lot of different characters, especially when they move into Ta Lo in like towards like the third act of the film. But yeah, overall, this was very fast paced. It did not feel like a 2-hour movie. It did not feel like it was kind of a drag at all. And of course, there are post-credit sequences which kind of expand on a possible future for the actual character Shang-Chi and of course the other following Phase 4 movies that the MCU are going to be churning out. Yeah, definitely. I mean, overall, this film was pretty good. This was really interesting. It was nice to see people like Yunhua having a brief role. He was actually quite funny as this kind of stern, older villager from Ta Lo, and as well as I thought Michelle Yeoh was really good. She's her gentleness kind of brought a lot of kind of like depth to the characters, and yeah, overall this was actually a fun movie. Even Ronnie Cheng's little cameo in the Macau underground fight scene was pretty good. And the only problem I had with this movie, I thought Zhang Menge's character Xiaoling was not given enough kind of depth in comparison to like how Shang-Chi and even Katie had, in terms of like the kind of like the exposition that their characters had throughout the film. You kind of like, you know, were able to kind of relate more to them, whereas Zhang Meng does give a very subtle performance, but doesn't really give much. But then she's also a badass. I mean, she did really well, especially with her fight choreography that she was able to display with her dart rope, and of course the hand-to-hand combat, the MMA that she was able to show on display. Yeah, overall, the rating of this film is, I would say, 4 out of 5. Definitely worth a watch. I would say watch it on the biggest screen that you can. I mean, this is one of those movies you can fully appreciate once you watch it in the cinemas on the big screen. Definitely, this is going to be added to my Blu-ray collection, because definitely I could see this is going to look great on Blu-ray as well as it is on the big screen. And yeah, I hope there's more to come in terms of like Shang-Chi and maybe the further sequels, as well as maybe more involvement in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And hopefully this kind of like breaks the stereotype that we've actually been getting in terms of Asian representation within Hollywood movies. Instead of having the typical stereotype archetypes, like the stereotypical archetypes of caricatures of Asian characters, I'm hoping this kind of breaks away from that and actually provides more depth and just more grounded, realistic type of characters. And I do hope this does happen. Well, thanks for thanks for all the people who have actually recently subscribed. And if you're new here, please like, please follow, please subscribe. And also follow me on Instagram. And definitely I'll be seeing you on the next video. It's been Sid. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
You walked in my shadow. I trained you. So the most dangerous people in the world couldn't kill you.